on, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stuntz. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah! 40. It is very close. 15, 10, 5.
All right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like this podcast. As always, we're your host, Blake, my brother, Brooks. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Notification bell, all that good stuff. Follow us on X at @chusker_corner, Instagram, Cornhusker Corner. Now that we got that out of the way, another one bites the dust. Here we go. Spring ball started. So that's some good stuff in the news there. As we mentioned last time, a new athletic director. So we'll touch on some of the philosophical changes that have come up there. And we'll go with, let's just start with that. What do you have for Troy Denton, huh?
Well, just overall, I mean, you look at the last 2 or 3 months of Husker news cycle, and it's been nonstop, really. Like for February through end of March, April season, it's been crazy, the news cycle that's come across us Husker fans, from the fact that we have the most talented prospect that we've ever had at the most important position as Dylan Raiola, and largely he's been out of the conversation when you're talking about Nebraska athletics, largely because of the basketball team's run took a lot of that shine, which was fun to watch. And then you look at the way that timeline projected, it was a bit of a roller coaster ride. And then by the end, we all knew they were getting into the tournament, and now everybody's gone. So that was just crazy to follow over the last 90 days, and then you also have the situation with the athletic director in Trev Alberts leaving, and then Troy Dannon getting hired almost immediately. I mean, we had our interim guys really doing the search and they found their guy. But to me, that as the dust settles on the hiring of Troy Dannon, a couple things to take away from it, I guess. I guess interesting observations is like an interim president and interim AD hiring the new AD, like good for them, interim president most of all. But to me, it just screams that there was a lot of suggestions that they took from Rule. They understood that as far as permanent ranking members of the athletic department, like, let's listen to Rule, which was largely what everybody said, in the week leading up to the hiring of Troy Dannon. So I think that's a good thing to take away from it. But the big philosophical change, as we've sort of discovered as the weeks have gone on and listening to Troy Dannon's press conference and all that stuff, the big philosophical change is in the approach to how the university handles NIL, and specifically how it deals with the third-party collectives, ours being 1890. Trev always foresaw that the NIL collective would be eventually something that's in-house, and he's probably right, but there's no timeline to be able to go off of when that will be. So essentially he started his own collective in-house, and it was called the Big Red Collective or something like that. And it was a competitor for 1890. So already right there, you have people pulling in different directions, and it was just philosophical differences all over the board. And then you have Troy Dannon coming in, and he was asked about 1890, and one of the quotes of his was he said, "You'll see me wearing 1890 gear as much as you see me wearing Husker gear," because he's all about unity and everybody pulling in the same direction. And today he posted a picture, and there he was in 1890 gear. So it's interesting. I'm not to suggest that Trev was completely anti-NIL or anything. Like, he went to A&M. I mean, he's for the 21st, but I just think, as far as the specifics of how it was going to run at Nebraska right now, there's a bit of a philosophical change there, which is something notable. And I think there wasn't as much tinfoil hatness to switch as we saw.
No,
initially.
it was probably a combination of things, and then he was probably getting some pushback on this new stadium too, because you know, Dan has come out and said that, like, yeah, I mean, we'll look at it and, you know, evaluate, and that's always kind of like CEO talk for, yeah, this is either going to get scrapped or completely redone.
100%. That's the other angle of it that's big, is the stadium project. I mean, Trev, that was his baby, and he wanted to have that be his legacy as athletic director of Nebraska, and which was why he was spearheading it so hard. And you know, he even had the structure of power restructured so that he would answer directly to the president instead of answering to the board of regents, so that he could easily spearhead something like a stadium project. And so he restructured everything so that he would be able to get this project done in his tenure here, no matter what. And when it wasn't going to happen as fast as he wanted it to, he didn't want that. He was pushing, he was butting heads with a lot of people on it. Now Troy Dannon has come in, and one of his direct quotes is, look, win and all that stuff will be easy. Like, we're focused on winning. That needs to be the number one priority. Everything we do, we need to evaluate whether it's going to help us win. If it's going to help us win, then we'll do it. And, you know, the reality is he's right, because give us an 8-4 season this year and then a 10-2 season next year, the interest will be so much higher that the fundraising will come like that. You know what I mean? So he's not wrong on that.
That's what we've said before, but you also have to think about, like, the timing of that. So if Trev had waited until this next season, after this next season, and, like, if we have had some success to release that, there probably would have been a lot more, like, get up and go behind it. Just because if we have a worse season this year than we did last year, then there's something really wrong.
Hell, if we made a bowl last season, there might be a little bit more get up and go behind it, to be honest. Like, we're being honest.
But, you know, as his, like, he was always trying to move forward to the next thing. So it probably wasn't the right time. He probably thought there might have been enthusiasm enough from what we saw, like, on the field to carry over. But the way that the season ended, I think in a lot of people's minds, still just in the fashion, you know, just the losing streak when we only needed one more with almost six games left. So that kind of was probably in the back of people's minds too. To leave a sour taste, even though there was a lot of positivity.
Settled, like, people have, I mean,
like,
positive,
they've come around to it. But I mean, winning it will take care of a lot of that. But if you look from, like, the new regime's perspective, they do need to do something with the stadium. It would be stupid to just scrap that plan entirely, because there were aspects of that plan I was like, oh, heck yeah.
I mean, look,
the 360 concourse.
The concourse.
Every stadium that we've been in that has had that, it is a feature. It is a great 100%.
Feature. Yeah, like,
and it just brings
stadium has it, and it's nice. It's easy to get around. Not nearly as big, and obviously the crowd it's just a different animal entirely. But I completely agreed. And we've been to a number of games. Look, we sat in very high at North Stadium, which is the better end zone section. And we sat high up, and it's like, it's hard. It's hard to be up there. And there's there's the sun's beating down on your face the whole time. There's the bathroom, you have to walk down 40 rows. In South, there's still stadium seating, not stadium seating. There's still bench seating. Yeah, bench seating. When we were in the suite for Michigan, we could look at South Stadium, and you just see how many rows there are, and there's no bathrooms up there. They have to, like, if you're an elderly person, you have to walk down 60 rows, 80 rows, whatever it is, to get down to the bathroom. So it needs to be done, no doubt about it. The fans are important, and they keep showing out. And even though people want to poo-poo the sellout streak, look at every single game. Okay, like, if they're playing Indiana on a Friday night and it's raining, you might see it be like 85% full, but still, all those tickets are sold, and 85% full is the floor for that stadium. You know what I mean? Like, that's the floor. You'll almost never see it below about 85% full. And most times it's 95, 100%. You know what I mean? You'll see a couple of sections in the corner here and there that don't have people, but bro, like, we suck. Like, y'all, I live in Houston. I went to Houston, and like their sports programs have been good, and they struggle to get people in the stadium.
Yeah.
So we have a really special fan base here, and the athletic department really has a responsibility to take care of them. They do. But happens now, or whether it happens 2 or 3 years from now, we'll see. We got to be good in football. It all is hinging on Matt Rule and his program. So let's get into that, man.
Yeah. No, and spring ball started. So, some storylines coming out, some things that they're trying to force already, media wise. One of which is the quarterback battle. And Rule even said, like, they asked him about after the first practice, right? And he goes, guys, like, it's the first practice in spring. He's like, we're not going to name somebody until probably like an hour before kickoff or something to that effect. Like, and he was just like, he's like, because I think that if you name somebody, there's some sort of kind of lackadaisical, like, I'm the guy, like,
and why would you give him that disadvantage for them to know that he's starting? Like, why would you do the other thing? Why would you name him weeks in advance? It just makes no sense. Like, just at its baseline, it makes no sense.
Compete. And that's all. That's 100%. All that he's about. Like the second episode of the Chasing 3 came out, and that was a big theme, was just competing. Right. Between Jamal Charles and on the Jalen Lloyd, between their track stuff, which was cool to see, or just like the mat drills that they were doing. It was all about competition. They're very into competition. So that it doesn't really shock me at all. They weren't going to name a starter in this first press conference in spring ball.
But also, like, these quarterbacks are young, including Harburg. Harburg's still young, even though he's in a young room. He's the old guy of the young room. He's a sophomore. I mean, he's not like the old, you know what I mean? Redshirt sophomore. But even in a normal room, like, he's the lower half of the older guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not like he's the old guy. But anyway, so you never know what you got in these guys. They're in a college program right now. They're developing each and every day with professional nutrition teams and professional strength and condition teams and all the stuff you need to develop. I mean, you just look at, like, for instance, you look at a guy like Michael Penix Jr. He always had a cannon, even at, what was it, Indiana they were at before, right? Yeah, he even had a cannon there. But at Indiana, his game was more run-oriented than it ended up becoming when he went on his national championship runner-up run at Washington.
Yeah.
And so he evolved throughout his career when he had the right development. And we haven't seen a whole lot of that in Nebraska in the last 10 to 15 years. I'm sitting here trying to think of guys who were like, came out and they were average as freshmen, and then all of a sudden they were a rock star senior. Can you think of anybody? Maybe some walk-on type guys like JoJo or people like that. But Cam Taylor-Britt is an example of a guy who, like, always had it. He got better and more refined, but, like, he always had that dog in him. He did.
Yeah. I mean, I could think, like, maybe Abdullah.
Yeah.
That guy took him too. Major strides every single year.
For sure.
And he was just kind of like a return guy the first year.
Yep. I'd argue Tommy Armstrong got better at quarterback throughout his progression. I would argue because even the 2016 year, that was a cluster of an organizational nightmare of a team. And even though we had some athletes, and he was the commander, he looked better in 2016 than he looked in 2013, 2014 when he started seeing the field. So it's happened before at Nebraska. It hasn't happened a whole lot in the last, we'll say, 10 years.
No. And I'll say, like, when they released, like, videos of, like, quarterbacks throwing and everything, and of course, like, it's off season, so people are nitpicking away, and they're like, "Oh, look how accurate Harburg is being now," and I'm just like, "What? Okay, hold on. One, he's not throwing against anybody. Like, he's throwing routes.
Yeah,
you better be accurate throwing routes. Like, I hope his accuracy has improved, but." Okay, that's a hot take. Then another one is like, oh, did you see Raiola missed a couple throws high, and I'm just like, guys, calm down.
Let me tell you what I saw. I saw when the sights and sounds stuff was, well, you're a quarterback, so you can definitely detail to me what you saw. But all they're seeing is all they're seeing is individual drills, which, I mean, you've played football, I've played football. We both know does not tell you anything. It doesn't tell you anything, because, like, that's not when the real stuff is happening. When the real stuff's happening is when you're in team. When you're in team is when you figure out who everybody is. But anyway, I'll just say the footage I saw of all the quarterbacks, it's like the way people are talking about how Dylan Raiola is the inevitable starter, that's how it looks. You know what I mean? That's how it looks. Like just their throw. Like I don't even know if they're hitting the guy. Just look at the way all of them throw. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that guy's way different than the other ones.
I'm going to challenge you on that. He's smooth for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. From a mechanics and then stature, just if you look at them back there throwing, the person that looks like the most starter right now is Harburg. He's bigger. He looks mature.
Stature? Have you seen them standing? It's actually crazy. Have you seen them standing next to each other? They're the same size.
Oh, I know.
It's crazy. Like, I didn't know Raiola was that big.
Yeah, but look how much stronger. Like he just looks.
No doubt. He's more developed.
Looks more the part. He's more developed. He's been in the program for a while. His throwing motion, I will say, has from again skeleton. It does look like he's been putting a little bit of work into it. Harburg, I mean,
yeah.
So I don't think it's as stark as you're just put out.
Well, I don't know, man. It's like in baseball, you get a number of pitchers together, and there's one guy that stands out. He might not have the perfect form, but it's like, man, the ball comes out of that. I mean, I'm not looking for it though. I'm really not. But you see that. Look, if we ever had comments, everybody in the comment section would 100% agree with me. Comment if you do, because look, I'm not basing it on anything other than just how it looks, and the way it looks is like, oh, Raiola looks like a mini Mahomes or a number of NFL guys in that new age style of like athletic quarterback, arm angly, Verduzco would love him type thing. And that could be good or bad, but it's like very refined looking at a very young age for that style. You know what I mean? And the other ones are like, yeah, they're raw. They look more raw than him. You know what I mean? Like they could develop, don't get me wrong, but they look much more raw. He looks more refined.
I would say there's a much more of a gap between him and Caitlin than him and Harburg.
Yes.
Just from what I saw from him as a mechanics footwork perspective.
Yes.
I'm just telling you, actually, he can get a little lazy because he has a lot of just athletic talent. He can get a lot lazy with his mechanics. Raiola can.
Oh, 100%.
So
that was like
they're gonna have to like keep on him a little bit though. He also doesn't seem like the type. He's actually going to be getting this first interview session either the end of this week. It might be,
really?
It might be tomorrow, either the end of this week or the end of next week.
It probably is tomorrow. I think they do Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Tuesday defense, Thursday offense, and the next week they'll do Tuesday offense, Thursday.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that really quick. But yeah, no. So he'll have his first chance to like address kind of the media and everything. So I think that'll be a good opportunity for him.
Yeah. Look, at quarterback, you can be lax or you can be relaxed. You know what I mean? You can be lackadaisical, which is not good and you don't want, and leads to things like Jeff Sims dropping 4 snaps in a row, or 4, in the first half of Colorado. It leads to things like that when you're lackadaisical and not focused out there. But relaxed, there's a lot of high-level NFL quarterbacks that if you really watch them, they are so relaxed out there. And that can be a high-level trait. So he's young. We'll see what we got in him. But he's got some traits that I see that I'm like, okay, I see why he's high rated. He definitely, to me, as a passer, it's like, okay, well, he's got a style and it's refined. Those other guys haven't even really figured out what type of thrower they want to be. Because make no mistake about it, there's not one way to throw a football. People will teach you what, the by the book, and there's different types of QB coaches even. There's QB coaches that are by the book that'll teach you, how you've always thrown a football, and then there's QB coaches like Verduzco, like we've talked about, which will teach you more arm angly, sort of new age stuff about it. So there's different philosophies, and to me, you just look at Raiola and it's like, man, he's been taught a philosophy, and up to this point, as a freshman, it looks very refined. But I'm not a quarterback. I was a D lineman in high school, D lineman and guard. And they didn't have any packages where I was throwing the balls, unfortunately. So
yeah. So from what I saw, Satterfield and Thomas are going tomorrow for the coaches.
Okay.
So that's what I heard would be a
possibility
good time for some of the quarterbacks to start talking.
You think he sends Raiola up there? We'll see.
We'll see. I think Harburg speaks first, no matter what.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on it too. You got to send Harburg out there first.
Yeah, you have to. yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I'll see if that
But if your rule,
random Twitter
do you
account I
send
saw is right.
do you send all three quarterbacks out there, or do you send Harburg and Raiola and not Kalen yet? Or like, because I feel like if you send Harburg, then you should probably send Raiola. But if you send Raiola, you should probably send Kalen too. So you should probably just send all three quarterbacks and call it a day on that.
Yeah.
Without hurting any feelings.
Yeah. I mean, because just for the terms of like what offense in general, like you have some seniority back on like the offensive line and stuff, and but like some of our seniority in like the backfield, like isn't practicing in spring,
Right.
and a lot of the new guys like in the wide receiver room, you know, who knows? It'll be interesting to see.
The person, like I said before, I think I've said this on the show before. The person that you should look out for, and I feel like the person that's probably going to get the biggest spotlight just because of what you just talked about with people sitting out, is Dowdell, is Dante Dowdell. Is that his name, Dante Dowdell? Is it Dante? I think so. Yeah, but last name Dowdell, running back. He transferred here from Oregon. And he's going to get a lot of touches because there's only 3 of them that you'd call starter quality that are participating in spring.
Yeah,
which I believe is Emmett Johnson, Dowdell, and Quentin Ives. I believe is also participating.
That would make sense.
Yeah, they're all like the recruited scholarship guys.
Yeah, that room is going to have someone go.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm expecting a little bit of attrition at the end of all this, at the end of spring, but I'm also expecting we're getting into April, and I remember this time last year it was like, okay, our first commit in the 2024 class committed, and it was like it started to trickle in that way. So I'm expecting some 2025s to start committing and some attrition the other way too, but maybe a transfer or two, depending on what we see quarterback wise. The way they're doing spring is they split them up into 3 teams.
3 teams. Yeah.
The Rattlesnake Boys. The gold
Bug Eaters,
the Bug Eaters, and the Old Gold Knights, which are all the 3 original names of Nebraska before they became the Cornhuskers, and kind of cool idea. But so the quarterbacks are being split up. They're going to be getting a lot of reps because Raiola's on a team with a walk-on quarterback. Both of them are the quarterbacks of that team. Harburg's on a team with another walk-on quarterback, and then Kalen's got his own team. So we're gonna get.
I really like the way they did that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of reps and yeah. Before I forget about it, like I know I mentioned the Chasing 3 doc too.
Yeah.
One of the quotes that I heard Rule talk about when they were in a team meeting, was talking about like doing the little things and competing to make sure that, you know, everything that you do is, you know, to their standard. And because he said, because sometimes your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear your words. And I was just like, oh man, that's a line.
Oh,
that's a line. Like,
this is a dude
he's
who
like,
goes
doesn't
to
matter what
church
you
every
say.
Week.
Yeah.
He goes to church every week. I mean,
doesn't matter
he
what you
listens,
say.
and he listens. He goes to church every week, and he listens. He takes notes. You know,
I mean, that was a banger.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. He's awesome. Like he's the type of coach that's like, dang, I'd love to play for that guy, but I was never ever good enough to sniff playing for, you know, like that caliber. Like I've played for. Look, my coach in high school was amazing. My head coach in high school was amazing. My line coaches have been amazing, and I wanted to play college ball like everybody, but I just wasn't big enough. But Matt Rule is the type of guy that you see at college, and you're like, dang, man, that is a man among men. That's uncommon amongst uncommon men. That's We're excited for we're excited to see what he can do this year. But yeah, I mean, what are you looking forward to most in spring? What position group? What person? What rattles off on the top of your mind?
Well, listen, like I'm biased, and you know it's literally the quarterback play, because the entire offense, which I'm impartial to, anyways, starts with quarterback play. That's why these past couple of years have been so hard. Like I guess past couple of years since Adrian transferred, it's been kind of hard. Casey got too injured, and there were other things that were really frustrating besides just his play, like play calling that year with Whipple, and so that was frustrating. Then last year, the inconsistency and again play calling. I just really want to have somebody back there that you trust, and that can run the offense. even can make up for bad play calling in some instances.
Clean play.
Because guess what? That's what Adrian Martinez did. He made up for bad play calling in a lot of instances, right?
Yes.
People forget it because he also, would make a mistake here or there, and it usually came at a bad time. But he kept us in a lot of games.
70-30. It was 70% great, 30% awful, and those 30% came in the exact wrong moments.
Yeah,
pretty much how you can break him down.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to see if Harburg can take another step forward with a real quarterback coach, actually being able to see Raiola with everybody else, and again, in Kalen too, see if they can progress a little bit. Because at this point, Kalen is definitely fighting for a number 2 spot, no matter who starts.
Agreed.
So,
but again, I don't think there's much of a QB battle going on, if I'm honest. I mean, we're talking about a guy who, look, again, stats do not lie, and quarterback is largely a position like we've talked about. You can develop, it can happen, but a lot of guys, they have it. A lot of guys, they have it or they don't. And for Raiola, you're talking about a guy who threw 30 touchdowns and 1 interception in his senior year of high school, who came under a lot of flack and a lot of criticism. Oh, he had a great roster and yada, yada, yada. If you watched his games, he had a terrible offensive line, really good skill position players. With that, he was pressured on like 60% of his throws. So that means he's clean. He was a clean player with pressure. The reason I'm emphasizing Raiola so much is, like I've said many times, I believe he's going to be the starter. And so that's what's encouraging about him to me. It's can he translate. Yeah, it's not can he be something he's never been before. It's can he translate that play to the next level. Yeah. It's a much simpler question to me.
It is, but it's also a big if. Yeah, sure. Listen, he has the intangibles, and everything. Going up another level takes some time.
100%, but going up another level and then becoming something even better than you were before is so much more astronomically bigger of a question to me. Like, oh, you're a 54% passer in high school. But now I'm talking about Harburg, and I love Harburg. Right. I think he's a gamer, but you're a 54% passer in high school. And then you come to the college level and you're 54%, 53% passer, and you led our offense to 5-3 and all the respect and flowers, but it was the worst rated offense we've had in years. Okay. And so you're asking him to become something he's never, ever been before. That's to me is the real struggle of that.
Sure. Yeah. But you also have to look at how many times it has clicked. Joe Burrow was not lighting the world on fire before he had his breakout year. He really wasn't. The year before he won the Heisman, he was a mid-level quarterback at LSU. He was very mid-level the year before he won the Heisman. He had a lot of talent, and he was good, but he wasn't Joe Burrow good. And I'm not saying Harburg is. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here with your with your theory, right? Joe Burrow was really good coming out of high school. He never got his shot at Ohio State. He transferred over. What? I know about Joe Burrow. I know his path and everything.
I'm just looking at his high school stats, but Max Preps is being dumb.
Yeah. But he was highly rated, but he went over to LSU, and his first year starting, he had some growing pains. And he was not the Joe Burrow that came out the next year. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that was with a guy that has been in a college system a couple of years, even though he wasn't starting. So I don't think it's something that you can just plug and play. Hope it is. I want the best person to start. I do. But experience does count for something. And if you can and remember, Harburg was kind of tossed aside. Right. He wasn't even in quarterback meetings when Whipple was here.
Yes.
Now they have a quarterback coach, like a real one, that has developed guys like him. What was it? Was it Bowers at Baylor?
It was Charlie Brewer.
Brewer.
Yeah, Charlie Brewer.
He was a mid quarterback. They got him to play a really good level.
100%
level, right? He was kind of like a Harburg type.
Yeah, I mean, it just has to show itself, and that's why they scrimmage. You know what I mean? So
that's what I'm interested to see.
100%. But I think I said something like this on a podcast 2 weeks ago or whenever we recorded it, and it was like I would be a little nervous if it's not Raiola, right? And here's why: because of the scope of the two questions that I played before. Is like the question around Harburg is, can he become something he's really never been before, or with Raiola is like, can he translate his play to the next level, right? So it's concerning that Raiola wouldn't be the starter right off the bat because it means he didn't answer that question in camp. You know what I mean? You want the questions to be answered in camp. And it makes me think of the Zach Taylor versus, what was it, Joe Daly, or was it
That sounds right.
it was no. It was a guy. It was Harrison Beck. It was Harrison Beck, and he was like, "Yes, Harrison Beck." And then there's this like back then the media was able to watch the scrimmages pretty much all the way through. And there's this scrimmage that Sean Callahan remembers being at, which was where Zach Taylor won the job, and it was definitive. He just had a gritty, tough performance and played so clean and just led the team. And it was just obvious after that it wasn't going to be Harrison Beck. It was going to be Zach Taylor. And that's what camp can do. You know, like if you're Raiola, that's where you're going to answer the question. And to me, it's like, well, okay, if that question is never answered, then it's the question again the next offseason. And then maybe those dudes never, ever translate it. So that's where you start becoming a little bit concerned. But that's just in my own, you can't have that mindset as an athlete. But for me as a fan, that's where I'm like, okay, like, let's start looking for a transfer. Let's start, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But anyway.
You know, they're all getting a good amount of practice and everything. So I like the way they're doing it.
Lots of reps.
Everything. Yeah.
I mean, last spring we talked about, they had 6 quarterbacks. You can only do so many reps with 6 scholarship, by the way. They had walk-ons too. So they had like 9 quarterbacks. So you can only get so many reps with that many. And this year it's 3 scholarship and I think 2 walk-ons. So 5 quarterbacks total. It's so much more manageable reps-wise, and everybody's going to develop a lot more. Plus, I think you just have more developed weapons on that offensive side. Young guys right now, but the transfers as well. So the offense is interesting, certainly. But we actually got defensive media yesterday. One of the transfers of note that everybody's been asking about lately is the linebacker transfer from Syracuse, Stephon Thompson. And one of the interesting things that Tony White said about him was he was just like, quite frankly, he's used to a different standard. And now he's here at Nebraska, and our standards exceed where he was before. So now he's got to get used to a new standard. And it's like it would be a little bit of a slight at an old coaching staff if you didn't know him at all. Yeah. But he coached there for 3 years. That's where he came from. Yeah. Like his mentor's there now, Rocky Long, as the defensive coordinator. Like it's I think Fran Brown, isn't he the head coach there now? I mean, it's like who's a rule guy, like Fran, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I think he sort of just like went down the path, like he just couldn't stop himself. And I mean, but the truth is, and they were talking about, the reason I bring this up is they were talking about this on the radio this morning, and Bill Bush had a good point. He was like maybe he used the wrong word there in standard, but the reality is the expectations are much bigger at a place like Nebraska than they are at a place like Syracuse. So as a result, the coach being there, they try to raise that standard to that championship level. So
and you can kind of tell that like the coaches going into this year are a little bit more confident. Like that you can tell that they're looking around and kind of like going like, okay, I really like what we're seeing.
Especially the defensive coaches. T. Knight, like he was like not a care in the world yesterday. Like he's smiling ear to ear, and that's good to see because like you look at who we got coming back and who's developing into their roles and all the stuff. Last year it was like trying to figure out who can do what and when we can play who. And this year it's like, okay, well now we know a lot of those questions. Now let's make these guys the best at what they're good at. Fill in the holes in their game and let's play and have real, and we have a lot of real depth there too. Like a lot, like much more than we've had in the past. I mean, look, the reason we got killed by Wisconsin in the conference championship game in 2012 was because we didn't have defensive line depth. So going into the game, we had our nose tackle was like a 4th string at that position. He was like really like a 4 tech, and and he was 260 pounds. And so like you need depth, like because people are going to get hurt. Things are going to happen that way. So we Ty and Nash in the middle, and that's great. But now we got like Van Poppel, and we got like these dudes backing up them. Kai Wallen, and one other guy I was going to mention. Vincent Carroll Jackson too. Like you got some big dudes behind the big dudes, and then edge guys for days, pass rushers for days. Jabari Butler's coming back. James Williams, who showed sparks as Slender Man. And so it's exciting on that side of the ball, especially. And our offense has its work cut out of it, making themselves look good on spring ball. Like if they look,
that's what I'm talking about. Because even last year, like going back and looking, there were signs that our defense was going to be good, but we just got so accustomed to sloppy offensive play. Like we're just like, okay, the defense looking really good. But it turned out to be both.
Oh my God. So, they were like, what? Look, they were like, what? It was so indicative of the season. Like you have to take that into account. Like if you watch the spring game again from last year, you're like, oh my God, that's exactly how they played in the season. So like, you gotta it's important if you watch it, like there is some things you can see. They had like 12 fumbles as a team. I mean, and that's how the season, exactly how it played out. So if I'll say this, I am confident enough in our defense that if our offense has some success in the spring game, I'll look at it as a sign of like, okay, our offense might be pretty good. If Raiola looks pretty good, I'll be like, okay, he's going against the 3-3-5. He's going against Nash and Ty. He's going, you know what I mean? And I think they'll have green jerseys because their numbers are lower, so it'll be a little different. But still, it'll be a good sign if our offense has success at all.
No, I agree. It should be interesting to watch. Only like 2 more weeks now, right?
Yep, 2 more shows, and then we'll have a game to talk about.
Yeah, we'll have a game. They haven't come out with the format of what they're gonna do yet. They'll probably come out with that soon. Or if they have, I just went over my head and missed it. Yes, PNG. But any other things that you want to hit before?
No, that's it. I gotta go see Dune 2.
All right, perfect. That's gonna be it for us today on the Cornhusker Corner. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on X, _corner, and Instagram Cornhusker Corner. And always remember that there's no place like
this podcast.